My guest today is a star defenseman on the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was drafted 5th overall in the 2012 NHL Draft and has been an absolute stud ever since. He's been a huge part of the Leafs core. It's my absolute honor to welcome to Jake's Takes Leafs star Morgan Rielly. What's up, Morgan? How you doing?
Great intro. I'm doing awesome. I'm happy to be on here with you, chatting with you. So I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Of
Thank you so much, Morgan. This means the world
course.
to me. Thank you so much
Um,
also for being nice to me at Marner's tournament. It
of
was
course. I was actually just thinking about you. The way you approached me and asked me to join you, I thought was so cool, and I would encourage you to do more of that because, like, how I interpreted it was just like you were a pro and you've done it a million times, and you were really classy, and I really like that.
Man, thank you. I appreciate that. It means a
Of
lot.
course. Yeah.
Anyway, I know some big things are coming up now. You and Tessa are getting engaged. Congrats, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
How's that been?
It's been great. It's been great. We're happy. We're doing our thing. Just kind of, I mean, I'm working, obviously. She's doing her thing. So we're just kind of cruising along.
I was thinking actually, timing's perfect. You're coming out of a playoff series win. You're more battle tested and everything. Ready to get married, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I've been through it. I'm ready.
Exactly. But seriously, I'm very happy for you and just
Oh,
incredible news.
thank you so much.
Anyway, so training camp isn't that far off now,
Hmm.
and the team's gone through some major changes both on and off the ice. What do you
Hmm.
think about Dubas leaving? Were you like expecting that, or was that a surprise?
Um, I wasn't expecting it, but I've gotten used to being surprised, I'll say. I think my first few years when players got traded who were obviously teammates, but also friends, when they leave, you're taken back, and then you just get used to a new reality type thing. And I think that was the case with Kyle leaving. And so we don't spend too much time really worrying about it or thinking about it now. We're just onward, and we're thinking about the next thing. And our group is outstanding, and I spent time with Brad and with Kiefer and all the staff, and I think we're in a great spot. So at this point, we're just trying to look forward, and we're pumped about where we're at and what's going on. So I think everybody feels good now, which is really all that matters.
100%. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of talk about it, obviously, in the playoffs about Dubas. And I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone saw those videos of him yelling at those Lightning fans. That was so funny. But honestly, I
Yeah.
actually liked that. I liked seeing that he cared so much, seeing how invested he was. Did that feel good knowing that your GM believed in you like crazy?
Yeah, I think so. What I like the most in everybody, whether it's a teammate or a coach or a manager or a member of the training staff, or whatever, is just when people are authentic and they allow themselves to be who they are, and their real emotions come through. I think that's a great quality in people. And with Kyle, he just so happens to be a passionate person, and he cares deeply about his job, and so I think that came through. And I think with teammates, I like when people have the room to be um, who they are, be authentic. Whether that's overly emotional and honest, or if they're stoic. Like I just want people to be who they are, and I think that came through with Kyle. But I think that really comes through with our group, our team. Our coach had a huge reaction after John scored that overtime winner, and our players did as well. And I think I mean, that's the coolest thing ever when people get to be um, true to their emotions and just free. And I think that was just the instance with Kyle. That's all.
100%. And like that series against Tampa was very, very awesome. Like, although we won the series and everything, it wasn't like we dominated. There were some very
Yeah,
close games, two overtime winners. We're going to talk about that.
yeah,
And like, it wasn't just like we dominated the game. It was a hard fought battle. Am I right?
yeah, absolutely. And I will just know I love the fact that you're saying we, because
Of course.
you're just one of the boys. I love it.
Of course, Morgan.
It was a battle for sure. They're a great team, and But I think that's what everybody feels in that first round of playoffs. Whether it's us or whether it was Florida or whether it was Carolina or I mean you name it. I think that's just what you come to expect at this point.
Yeah, my dad actually took me downtown after they won the series
No
and
way.
and going crazy. We were yelling. It was so
Yeah,
fun.
that's very cool.
It was amazing. Anyway, so one of the overtime winners was actually your goal. The one in
Hmm.
game 3, got it from the point off, and O'Reilly won face off, threw
Yep.
on net, short side on Vasilevsky through traffic. It was
Hmm.
crazy. Tell me about that goal and that moment from your perspective.
Yeah, it was a cool moment. I think truly, like, I'm not trying to overplay it at all, really. But all that matters is that the team won the game. Like obviously, I felt very good about the fact that I was able to contribute to that. But that was game 3 in Tampa to take a 2-1 lead, and that's all that I was really thinking about. And I think if you ask John about his overtime goal in Tampa in game 6 to win the series, I think he would also answer that way as well. It's just like at that point in the year and in the playoffs and in the season, all the rest of it is like you just want to be able to contribute in a positive way to your team, and that's how I felt in that moment. And right before that face-off, we had been doing like a lot of plays off one face-offs because of how good John is in the circle and also Ryan. They win a lot of face-offs, so we had some set plays and it was late in overtime. And Nylander had told me, or I asked him what he wanted to do off the faceoff, what kind of set play he wanted to run, and he said, "Just stay out." He's like, "Just stay at the top. Don't worry about coming down." Blah blah blah. And so we had a good laugh about that afterwards because we had tried a bunch of different things that hadn't really been working, but um, he said, just stay out of it. Okay. Like I'm going to, do this, blah, blah, blah. But he essentially told me just to not worry about it. But the puck came right to me and that was the end of it. So again, all I really care about was that I was able to contribute in a positive way towards the team and the outcome of the game. That's all.
I know you just said you don't care about the person who was and whatever, but I want to ask you about John's goal because you also
Mm,
played a huge role in that game 6 overtime winner. Yeah,
yeah.
Tavares scored the goal, but you were the one that drove to the net, which drew Radish to cover you. It drew Radish to cover you, and then the puck actually went off of Radish's skating in the net. Did you feel
Mhm.
like you contributed to that at all?
Really, honestly, no. I mean, I didn't know how it went in. And again, if you ask me or John or whoever, I don't think anybody really cared that it went in. I was slightly worried that I was actually a bit worried that maybe it hit me and hit my skate and it get called back like for a brief moment. But I think it's super cool and almost like romantic that it was John, obviously being born in Toronto and being the captain and him scoring that goal, I think is huge. But no, you ask him the same question. I think all he would tell you is that he's happy it counted and that we won the game and we moved on. And so I think that's all you're going to get from really anybody on the team.
Anyway, I want to ask you now about the second round of Florida because that was a weird series.
Yeah.
Boston's out of the way. We have the weakest opponent that everyone thought was the weakest opponent in the playoffs, Florida Panthers. We're like, oh, we got this, bro. We come in home ice. Did we overlook them? Did everyone overlook them, or were they just better than we thought they were?
We did not overlook them. We knew whoever was going to come out between the Bruins and them was going to be the best team, which I think is the way that you have to look at it. As players and as a team and our staff and everyone, we did not overlook them. By no means were we, looking ahead or did we really think we had anything in the bag. And, I mean, they had just beaten the Boston Bruins, who just had, I think the best year in a long time in terms of teams in the NHL. So we did not overlook them. They were a really good team. Then um, after game 1, we definitely knew that it was going to be a grind, or that's what we were hoping for. That's what we were prepared for. Then I think if you look at how they played against Carolina and then also against the Knights in the Stanley Cup final, like they deserved to be there. They were a very good team. They competed hard. They were well coached and prepared, and but by no means did we overlook them at all.
You know what's crazy is that both eight seeds almost made it was almost an eight seed Stanley Cup. That would have been crazy if the Kraken like
Yeah,
the Kraken held through. That would have been nuts.
yeah, yeah. It was cool that the well, not cool because we weren't there, but it was interesting the way that the Panthers were in the NHL finals, and the Heat were also in the NBA finals, and I think they were both eight seeds,
Both
if I'm
eight
not
seeds,
mistaken.
crazy.
Yeah, which I think is crazy, but
You know, I know everyone's upset that the Leafs lost to the Panthers and everything, but I'm not mad at the Panthers. You know why? They beat the
what
Bruins. They
they
beat the
did, yeah.
Bruins. That's all we care about. Am I right? They beat the Bruins.
Yeah, I mean that was a good series, and again, the Bruins had an amazing year. So whoever was going to come out of that playoff round was going to be a real threat, obviously.
100%. Anyway, the Leafs have a lethal power play, loaded with talent. But like most teams, you guys line up with four forwards and only one D, you being the D, instead
Mm-hmm.
of two defensemen. Is that something you like, or would you rather like a true number, like a true other defenseman with you to play defenseman?
I think what happens a lot is the NHL is, I won't call it a copycat league, but you do what the other teams are doing type thing. And I think when you have guys like John Tavares and Austin Matthews and William Nylander and Mitch Marner, like you want those guys on the ice basically all the time. So when you get a chance to have a man advantage, you want those guys on the ice, and whether it's me or different D man, I think that player's job is to allow them to have space and make good passes and put them in good spots to create opportunities, to score. And I think there's time and place for the extra D man, but with all those great players, I think that you want them on the ice. You want them with the puck in the offensive zone. So I mean, I like what we do.
There's another big addition though this year, signing
Mm-hmm.
veteran defenseman John Klingberg. How do you see
Mm-hmm.
him fitting in, especially like on the power play?
He's an amazing player. Incredibly skilled, smooth, has a calmness to him. So I can't wait to play with him. I think he's going to be a great player for us. And, his big strength is playing the power play. And so if he's able to do that for us, that would be outstanding. Because I've watched him when he played for Dallas and obviously last year in Anaheim, and then played for the Wild. He has amazing ability with the puck, and especially on the power play. So if he's able to help us in that area, that's going to be amazing.
He is quite amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I want to go back to you now. One of your greatest skill sets is that your skating and your calmness under pressure is just it's unreal to watch. But
Mm-hmm.
for you, who's the toughest forward when you see him coming on a forecheck? You're like, oh shoot, what the heck?
That's a good question. On the forecheck is tough because it's a mix because I would answer with Ryan Reeves being one of them because you're just going to get put into the glass. But I'm grateful that he's a Leaf now.
Oh yeah.
But also in practice, a player like Mitch, for example, is so smart that he's trying to predict your play, where you're going to go, what you're going to do with the puck, and he's trying to pick off the puck. So it's two different things. I think it's more challenging maybe against a player like Mitch because he's so smart, but it's a little scarier with a player like Reeves who you know is just going to put you up, and so it's always difficult, but I guess I'll take Mitch over Reeves because I know how much it's going to hurt.
Anyway, I was thinking like I've always been wondering. Some teams just have insanely good forechecks. Seems to
Mm-hmm.
always be putting pressure on the D. Like teams like Boston, Florida this year. What is it? How do teams, is it like a skill that players have? Like you're a good
Absolutely.
forechecker, or is it just like hard will and effort?
Well, I think it's both. I think they kind of intertwine a bit. I think we have guys like Mitch, for example. I don't think when people picture him, they don't picture him on the forecheck. They picture him making plays, scoring goals, great assists, all the rest of it. But there are players who just care a lot and compete and work, and that's one aspect to it. And then the other aspect is just the team buy-in overall to the structure. And having a good fortune, because it is extremely difficult as a D-man against those teams who are on top of you and really fortunately hard. It's hard to break out, and of course that makes a big difference in the game and trying to exit your zone and all that stuff. But so I think it's a mix between the players really competing and having that will to work and to really forecheck, and then also the team structure, which also takes buy-in from players as well. But so it's a mix, but ultimately, those teams that you mentioned have great structure, and that's a part of their like who they are as a team. So that's important.
Last question, Morgan. So right
Okay.
before the playoffs last year, the Leafs added what I think is going to be a huge piece in Matthew Nice. I
Mm-hmm.
was so impressed with his game. What do you think his ceiling's like? Because I think he can really develop to be like a star first line player.
He's going to be outstanding. I think he was in the gym with me this week, and he's young and he's just moving weights around that he's so strong, and he's a really great player, and he has that motivation. And I think that with our team and the guys that he plays with, whoever that is, whether he's on the first line or the third or the fourth line, um, he has an opportunity to really thrive. And as his teammate, and I think other guys feel this, we want to make him feel comfortable, put him in a position to be successful, and just kind of do his thing. He's going to be outstanding for us, and so we just want to help him. And but I don't know how much he needs that, because again, I was in the gym with him, and he's throwing weights around that are pretty impressive.
Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today on Jake's Takes. This is something I'll never forget. Have
I'm
you
so
enjoyed your
happy.
time with me today?
I loved it, man. You're the best. You're the coolest kid. And again, I really appreciate the way that you approached me at Mitch's event. And I would encourage you to do more of that, because the way you came across, in my opinion, was outstanding, very professional. And I enjoyed my time a lot.
Thank you so much, Morgan.